Hi, my name is Steve with Asbestos Abatement Services, and today we're going to be looking at how to remove a popcorn ceiling or an asbestos ceiling from your home safely. I get calls on the phone every day from people asking how they can do this themselves or how to make sure that their abatement company that they're thinking about using is doing it right. And so today our plan is to walk you through a step-by-step process of what to expect or how to remove a popcorn ceiling on your own. And the way that we're going to do that is inside our office we have set up a cutaway of what it would look like if you were set up for a ceiling removal. The first thing that you need to be aware of is if somebody's going to remove a popcorn ceiling properly, there needs to be 2 layers of plastic that basically go from floor to ceiling on both of your walls. And so here is our first layer of plastic. You can see that we've got a second layer of plastic that comes over the top of it. And then you also have to have 2 layers of plastic on your floors. And so here's layer number 1 and layer number 2. The floors actually come up the wall and connect with the plastic from the wall. And so you can see that the floor, here's our first floor right there behind the plastic. The idea is the wall comes down over the floor and then gets taped off so that everything is watertight. When you go to remove a popcorn ceiling inside your home, you have to wet the ceiling texture down. And the last thing you want to do is have that water and that mud and that gunk get underneath your plastic and ruin your carpet or contaminate the house. One of the other reasons why you need to get it wet is because when the ceiling is being removed, if you're not keeping that ceiling texture wet, you're going to have a tremendous amount of dust that'll come up in the air. And the dust is actually the most dangerous part of the removal process. That's where the small fibers are that contain the asbestos that can get into your lungs and then ultimately cause cancer. Another step that has to occur also, and people ask me about this all the time, they go, what about the ductwork inside the house? And what we do every time we go to remove a ceiling, this happens to be that the duct is in the ceiling, but we cover over the ductwork with either 6mm plastic or 6mm tape that makes it airtight so that none of the fibers can be sucked up into the heating and air system. We also go, this is a cold air intake, so this sucks the air in. These are usually in the floor registers at your house. In this case, it's in the ceiling. But we would also cover over that to make sure that you don't have any asbestos fibers that get blown throughout the house while we're doing the work. The idea is we want the room sealed off and to be completely airtight when the work is being performed. From here, we're going to walk you into our setup where you'll get to see a full room and also some of the other components that you need to have in order to do a ceiling texture removal on your own. Alright, so this is a mock setup that we put up inside our shop here in Layton. And if you're going to start your own abatement project, probably the very most important piece of equipment that you're going to have is what we call PPE, or personal protective equipment. You'll need a face respirator that has a P100 filter. They're usually purple, and this will filter the air down to 0.03 microns in size for the particles. That's the level that OSHA has determined is safe for somebody to be able to breathe. And so if you're doing it on your own, make sure you've got a good face respirator. We like the North Air filters, but there's a lot of other ones out there. Another item that you're going to need is you've got to have your white Tyvek suits. These are required. If we have abatement workers inside your home, they're required to wear these. And when they put them on, by OSHA regulations, they actually have to strip down. So this is the only thing they're wearing. We'll try not to send anybody who's too ugly to your house. The other item that you'll have to have is a good pair of rubber boots, steel-toed shoes, just to make sure that nothing happens. Once in a while you end up with nails or something like that that can pop up, so make sure that your feet are properly protected. You also want the rubber boots because it's going to be wet inside. If you were just wearing the Tyvek suit, it would soak through and it would be awkward and wet. Okay, so next thing that's important to look at is if you ever see this red tape inside your home, don't ever go on the other side of the red tape. This is up for your safety, and it's designed to make sure that people know this is the area where people are working. There will also always be a danger sign on the front of the entrance to the work area. We actually had a client who crossed the red tape barrier, went through this plastic door to come in and talk to our workers when they were doing a project one time. That's a no-no. Don't do that. Not safe. Another item that you have to have in order to safely remove asbestos from the inside of a home, OSHA and the state of Utah requires us to have a full shower system. That means that you have a section that is called a clean room. This is where the workers take off their clothes and put on the fancy white suit and respirator. There is a shower section, which is required to have hot and cold running water. And so we have portable water heaters and then cold water coming in. So you also have to have a manometer. This is a fancy word for a machine basically that measures the air pressure inside the work area. Manometers are kind of spendy. They run about $1,300, but the idea is we want the inside work area to have a low air pressure zone. And the idea is when it's got low air pressure, that means that if there are asbestos particles floating around inside the work area with a low air pressure, they all stay inside instead of spreading out and going through the rest of the house. Once you've got all of this set up, we can actually take you in to the workspace. So now I'm going to walk you through the shower system. We start in the clean room. This is where the guys are going to take off their clothes and put on that fancy white suit. Try not to think about it too much. This is the shower area. As you can see, it's just real simple. You've got a head, hot or cold water. Down here it collects and catches all the water, and then we've got a pump actually that'll pump it out. And this is the clean room, or I'm sorry, no, this is the dirty room. They call it the dirty room because it's closest to the area where the work is going to be performed, actually. And so now we're going to step into the abatement area. So this is what a room looks like when it is totally prepped for popcorn ceiling removal. And you can see, all the walls are covered. The only thing we didn't do is we didn't cover the vents this time because this ceiling's not coming down. But there's a number of pieces of equipment in here that are important. The first one that I'll start with, actually, is our air filtration device. Sometimes they call these a HEPA filter also. But what happens is all of the air, while we're taking down the ceiling, it's wet, it's dusty, it's nasty. It all flows through this machine because we've made the room airtight now. And it sucks the air in through here. All of the carcinogenic asbestos fibers are captured into this heavy-duty filter that actually fits inside the machine. And then clean air comes out this end and is exhausted to the outside of the house. A lot of times people will ask me, when are you going to blow asbestos on my neighbors when you're blowing it out the window? No, all the fibers are caught inside the filter and it just goes to the outside of the home. Other things that you have to have in order to do a popcorn ceiling correctly is one of these little fancy pads. I'll come in a little closer so we can see it. This is called a doodle bug, and they are made of wire mesh and they're super abrasive, and we actually use those to scrape or rub across the ceiling. Once we've gotten most of the material off, we do the cleanup with this so that you're left with absolutely nothing on the ceiling except your sheetrock. Another item that you have to have inside is an airless sprayer. This is like your normal paint spray. It's a little dusty today. It was sitting in the shop. But when we wet the ceiling down, we're going to wet it down with water, and we spray it on with the airless sprayer. So we'll get it wet so that it'll come off easier and create less dust. We also use this at the end of the project when we want to apply the encapsulation product. And that is it's basically like a clear glue that we spray down on everything so that if we missed a stray microscopic asbestos fiber somewhere, it actually either glues it to the ceiling or to the plastic so that when we tear everything down, you're left with no fibers that you could breathe. So you need to have a special vacuum that is actually rated with a HEPA filtration rating that'll filter fibers down to 0.03 microns in size. Because this tool is going to be used as, once we get the big stuff up, we're going to be vacuuming every surface inside the room. So we're going to vacuum over all the plastic, the walls, the ceilings, everything, and it'll be captured inside our vacuum. And it's got a filter that is similar to this one, only smaller of course, but it's going to catch any of the particles that are dangerous inside that vacuum to make sure they don't get spread throughout the house. Then once everything's down, our final step is we go around and we cut the first layer of plastic. So right at the very top, we start to take it down and we'll pull it all down, and then we fold it in on itself to capture any of the sealing material that we've got. And then once we have that plastic down and rolled up, we drop it into a garbage bag and we seal the garbage bag off with this fancy plastic or this fancy tape. And then once we've got that first bag, we drop it into another bag and we seal that one off, and then we pass them out through the shower system. One of the other things that you have to do once you've got everything bagged up is it has to be disposed of properly at a landfill that will actually accept popcorn sealing texture. The typical disposal rate right now is about $500 a ton, and not all landfills will accept the material, and so you'll want to check with your local landfill to see if that's something that they will receive at their site if you're going to try and do it on your own. So that is how you remove a popcorn sealing on your own. If after seeing all of this, it seems like something that you don't want to do, or if you are going to approach it and you've got questions, feel free to give us a phone call. Our number is 801-872-8386, and it's Asbestos Abatement Services.